Hey everyone, just thought I'd do a video about my Qiewa Q1 Hummer. Basically, I disconnected everything. I've done a few videos lately, so I've had things pulled out and back in. I want to put everything back in good. And while I had everything in the state, I figured I'd just disconnect everything so I can clean up the wiring and make it look better. Not just have wires going all over the place tied, you know, like a plate of spaghetti. So basically, I started doing that. I'd already taken it apart and I documented. I wrote down like what each port of the controller does and such. And at the end of the video, there'll be some pictures I have of that I took showing, you know, every connector coming out of the controller and where it goes, what it does. That'll be at the end of the video, but I figured I'd walk you through it since I'm going to put everything back together now. First thing is, I've already started before I thought of doing this. I got a spare controller here, but the first thing is I pulled everything out. Like I said, I disconnected all the wires, had the controller all the way out. Right now, I've already got the motor connected. And basically for the motor, there's these three wires, the blue, the yellow, and the green are the power wires for the motor. So this is what carries your voltage and current to the motor. On mine specifically, I got rid of these connectors because I had a problem with mine. It was one to come somewhat loose. They weren't very tight, and I think some arcing happened. I got a lot of heat once that caused some melting of some connectors and stuff. But I got that squared away. But I don't like using these connectors for this, you know, higher current applications. So I just cut the wires and solder them together. Anyway, so those are your power wires. There's one other connector from the controller. This one here, it's a big connector. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wires on it, yellow, red, blue, green, and black. It's the only connector like this coming out of the controller. That also plugs onto the wire that's coming out of the motor. So basically the motor wire comes out of the motor, goes into the back of the chassis here, and then it has a yellow, a green, and blue, and then all these colorful wires coming out with the mating connector for this on it. So I've already got that connected up. And one thing I wanted to do too is put some thermal conductive tape on the bottom of the controller instead of the regular tape they had in there. So that will help conduct some of the heat off of the case of the controller, which is a big heat sink basically, to the bottom of the chassis, which is metal. So I'm hoping I can basically use the chassis as a heat sink at that point. So what I did is I've already done this. I took some of this thermal heating conductive tape and put it on the bottom of my controller. Again, this is a spare controller I have. Put it on the bottom of my controller, pulled all the wires forward other than the motor wires, and the motor connected the control wire to the motor, and basically just set my controller down inside there with this thermal tape underneath it. Seems to be sticking pretty good, and I'm hoping that's going to transfer some heat to the chassis actually, which may keep the controller cooler. So if you want to look really quick here, I have, come around the side here. I've basically, you can see the colored wires there that are from going to the controller plug, and then also the yellow, the blue, and the green here are the motor drive wires. I've got those connected. You can see I've got them soldered and then put some of this heat shrink around it to protect it really good. And then that colored wire controller, if you look down inside here, Aaron, you can see I just pushed the plug back in on the side. There's some space on the side of each side of the battery. So I just stuffed that up in there along with whatever extra wire I had from the motor. So I just kind of tucked that all away neat there. And so that's my motor connections. Got all that done. And the other wires I just have out on the side here. Okay, next I want to show you the power connection. Coming right out of your battery, you have a red and a black wire. The red one goes through a fuse holder, and this is your main connection from the battery. This mating connector coming out of the controller is the side for the controller. If you do ever unplug this, when you plug it back together, it will spark. It's nothing to worry about. It's just what it does. Also, you'll notice I have a 50 amp fuse in here. This originally was a 35 amp that fit in the fuse holder nicely. I upped that because I did a torque modification. You can see my other video on that if you look for it. I just hot glued this fuse in there, and that seems to be working fine. So anyway, that's your battery connecting. Also coming out of the battery is another red and black wire that run over to a connector and then to your charging port. So that's how your battery gets charged. When all is said and done here, I'm just going to tuck this charging port battery up, cable up here, and I'll figure out what I want to do with my power later, but I'm going to maybe just route it along the front there to plug it in. For now, let's just keep the power wires out of the way. Just go over a few things, starting at the front of the scooter. If you take your lid off, you're going to see a bunch of wires coming down through here. There's basically 5 wires, and then this thicker, heavier one that doesn't bend, that's your brake cable. If you follow that all the way through, it goes all the way out the back of the scooter to your brake. So that means basically, not counting the brake cable, there's 5 wires coming down from this cable wrap here going into the scooter. And we're going to go over each one of those and connect them up one at a time. After the 5 wires, you have 2 more wires, one coming from each side light. So these are your side light connections. And then at the back of the scooter, you have 2 more connectors that are your 2 brake lights on the back here, one for each side. And we'll get to connecting those up here in a second. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do after looking at all the connections, and again, I'm trying to make this as neat as possible. So the one I want to put in first, basically it's going to be underneath everything else, is the wire coming down from the handlebars or through that cable tie. And it's a red and black wire, 2 pins. There's 2 wires coming down from the handlebars that fit that description. As you can see, red and black, 2 pins on each. One's male, one's female. So let's set those 2 aside for a second. Come over here and look at my spare controller. Now, coming out of the controller, there's going to be a 2-pin connector with a gray and a black wire, and it's got it's a male end. There's another one that's a female, it's a red and black wire. Put that aside for now. We're interested in this one that's gray and black, 2-pin male header on the end. So this is basically our brake sense, coming from the brakes on the handlebar. So when you push the handlebar, it sends a signal into the controller that you're hitting the brakes, and then the controller turns on your brake lights. So this is the one we're going to do first. It's the gray and black wire. Let's go back over here, and you can see here it is here, gray and black wire, 2-pin male. So this is the brake sense line. So now I go back to these 2 cables, red and black, coming from the top. And only one of these is going to fit on here because this is a male connector here. That one's a male, this one's a female, so I know that's the one I want. You can't possibly connect the other one because it's the wrong gender. So I want to make sure I got this line fairly straight coming out of here, not tangled up or wrapped up, because I'm basically going to shove this down inside next to the battery here. So I'm going to start doing that now. There's plenty of room there for these wires, so this should come out okay. Okay, I grab my gray and black from this end and plug it onto the red and black one coming down from the cable from the handlebars. Okay, got that plugged on. Our brake sense is connected. I'm just going to, again, I want to route these as far as possible. This is just my own doing. I mean, you don't have to do this, but I like it looking cleaner and you know, knowing where things are. So I just kind of shove that back over alongside there. So I've got the brake sense line connected. You can see the gray and black wire there. And I just got it going alongside the battery. Got that cable tucked in all the way there. So that's nice and neat. Next thing, to finish the brakes, there's this kind of a combination cable that's going to be plugged in there. I took it completely off just to show you what it did. Okay, back to our other controller real quick. So basically we've taken care of the 3 motor power wires. The motor, basically speed control connection, which actually goes up that motor wire as well. The main power connector. And we just did the brake sense, which is this gray and black one. So we got these left. Let's first get this one here out of the way. This red and black wire on a 2-pin connector. It looks like this. There's another connector that looks similar, same type of connector, only it's red and gray. We're going to use the red and gray one. This red and black one isn't used. So again, same type of connector. One's red gray, one's red black. The red black one we're not going to use, so we're just going to pull that aside. So now basically we got these connections here left. And the next one we're going to do is the red and gray one that we just talked about. 2-pin connector, large white connector, red and gray wire. That's the output of the controller to your brake lights. So when you hit your brakes, the red and gray wire, black and gray wire that the sense line is tells the controller, hey, you hit the brakes. Controller shoves out voltage out this port to your brake lights to turn on your brake lights. So red and gray is for your brake lights. Now you'll notice on this cable here that you'll find in the scooter, there's this little, some sort of circuit here covered up with some heat shrink, and then here's the mating connector for that red and gray connector. So we're going to go in here and find that red and gray connector, red and gray wired connector. Here it is right here on top, and we're going to take this. Now the wires aren't the same color now. This is black and red, this is gray and red. It doesn't matter. It's this is what was connected on mine, so this is what I'd go with. And again, the black and red one like this, don't use. So we're just going to plug that on there. Find the way it's keyed. Okay, so that's on there. Now we got, basically again, it goes into that circuit, and we got 2 wires here, and those 2 wires, guess what? They just plug onto the 2 brake plugs like this. So I'm going to plug one on here, and these don't matter if which one goes on which side. They're both the same type of light and such. One goes there. One goes there. So now our brakes are completely hooked up. I'm going to push these wires down and get them out of the way and such, and we'll be back right after that. Okay, so I've tucked my brake wires away, and you can see here's the connector coming on the controller with the gray and red wire plugged into our other adapter wire. I just kind of got that in that little black circuit and the black shrink wrap pushed back into there. The brake light wire from this side, I just got it going straight back along the side, and the one from this side, I routed it across the front here and then down and over. I'm trying to keep things off of the controller itself because the controller does get hot. I could have also ran it along the back here, but with all those other wires there, I figured I'd take one less wire out of that mess and just route it through the front here. Okay, so that's all. The brakes are connected. Now if we go back and look at our spare controller here, the next wire we want to do is, we've taken care of all of these, so we basically got these connectors left. So we're going to work with this one next. This coming out of the controller here has a couple different purposes. This connector here connects up to the wire that goes up to the display and throttle. So that's the display throttle control. Then this bigger one in the middle has a couple red, several red wires and 2 black wires. This is where the alarm module plugs onto. And then this connector here basically is for the headlights and the horn. Now we have another kind of extra cable that's installed in the scooter that has a multi-purpose, and you use that with this. So on the port that again, this is for the display, this is for the alarm module. So you got this 2-pin and 2-pin, it's a 3-pin connector, but there's only 2 pins wired in it, and that's for the headlights and horn. This cable here is for the headlights and horn, and the side lights as well. And if we look for, none of these other connectors are going to fit on here except for the one with the 2 black wires, 1 red wire, 3-pin connector, 2 pins, male, this is female, so this is the one that goes on here. So we plug this cable onto here. So again, this is a little 2-pin pigtail coming off of that connector. Goes to this cable. Now on this cable, you have 4 connections. These 2 with just the green and black wires only go to your running lights, one on the right, one on the left. These 2 connectors here go on 2 cables up the handlebars for the headlights and horn. So let's go connect those up. Okay, so we're going to connect this cable in. Again, let's go in and find the cable we were just looking at. And it's laying right here because I pulled everything out nicely before I put the controller in. So you can see here's the multicolored one with many wires. That's going to go to the display up the handlebars. Here's the middle one. That's the one that's going to go to the alarm module. And then this is the pigtail coming off of it. that's going to connect up to our splicing cable. So just go plug that on there like that. I've got it upside down. It will only go on one way, so that's good. Okay, so that cable's plugged on now. And now, basically, as I said, these two green wires here are for your side lights, and it doesn't matter. You can't get them mixed up because they're both the same thing. There's nothing special about them. So now, if you look down your chassis, you'll see that there's the wire for the side light coming up right through there. So here's one of them, and same thing on the other side. So here's our two side lights, and we would plug them onto these two green and black wires, one on either side like that, and the other one on this side like that. Now here's the thing, since I've got the lighted deck board, the LED deck board, it's really bright and it's really really nice, but I found with these side lights on with the deck board, it kind of takes away from the effect of the deck board, so I don't really want the side lights on anymore on this particular scooter. So I'm not going to connect these side lights back up. On yours, if you want the side lights on, then by all means connect up to these two connectors here, just like I did. For my purposes, I'm not going to connect them. I'm just going to stash the wires down along the side here, like so. Just keep them out of the way. I'm trying to keep this clean back here. So I'm not going to use these two connectors that would normally be for your side lights. That leaves us with these two, and again, I said they go up to the headlights and horn, so you got to find basically two 3-pin connectors. One's male, one's female, so you can't get them mixed up. And there's one, it's got a red, black, and green wire, 3-pin female. Here's another one, it's got a red, black, green wire, 3-pin male. The only other cable left is this one with all these wires on, and as we know, that's for a display now. We're just going to put that one aside. So we got these two for the headlights and horns. Again, one's male, one's female, so they can only go on the right connector. You can't plug them on the wrong connector. So this one goes on here. And this one goes on here. So now we got our headlights and horn connected. Again, I'm going to now take a moment just to kind of tuck all this wiring in and make it neat, and we'll be back after that. Okay, so I now got these the headlight wires and that splicing cable. I got that all tucked up along the side here where I'm putting everything. Fits up there pretty nicely. I still got plenty of room up there, and basically it's, you know, rather than having everything right back here and looking like a big mess, I think this looks much nicer. Now you can see we still have those other two pieces coming off. We have this end one, this one here, which was the middle one that goes to the alarm module. We're going to do that last. And this one here that goes up to the display. And then you can see we have one more left here. It's a red and black wire, small 2-pin. That's going to be for the USB port charger. And if you look way down in the bottom over there, that's that red and black wired connector, larger white connector that we don't use. So I've just got that sitting down there out of the way. So next, let's go to the display, which is this other wire coming down from the handlebars. And you can see it has the blue, green, yellow, black, red, same as this connector here. There's no other connector like this on it, so can't mix it up. And we're just going to plug that onto this guy. And make sure that these are all snapped in good when you put them on. If you ever should break like one of the clips or something on it, you could just use a little hot glue or a silicone sealant or something like that. Actually, mine has a couple like that. One of them on the headlights is broken off, but it seemed pretty tight, so I probably should have took the time to put some on it, but if the headlights don't come on, I'll know immediately what it is anyway. So now we got our display connected, and we're going to, actually I'm going to run that, take it apart, and I'm going to run it underneath this brake cable so I can push it down inside there. Connect it back up, and then if it doesn't seem like it's going on, look at it, because it could have got flipped over or something. There we go. And then I can stuff this back down here, and we'll come back after I do that. Okay, so the last thing we got to do here is deal with this USB connector. We've done all of these now. The last one left is this red and black 2-pin wire female coming out of the controller, and that's your USB connection. Now, first of all, let's just look over here. If and here's our red and black coming out of the controller, so that's our connection there. And we have the one remaining wire coming down through the cable harness, which is the red and black, and that would be your USB connection. So in most cases, I should say, if you don't have the lighted LED board, then you would just plug your USB cable from the cable harness onto this red and black coming off of the controller, and you'd be done at that point. However, I have the lighted LED board, so let's go back over here real quick. I want to point something out. When you get the LED board, this will come with it. It's basically a transformer power pack, so it takes in 36 to 100 volts DC, and we're actually going to be, that's going to be connected directly to the battery, so 48 volts nominal. That's going to be your input. The output is 5 volts DC, goes to this some sort of little circuit in here, and then this is the part that would plug onto the LED board. So that's your output of this box. So we don't need to worry about that. But one thing I want to show you on this is, let's say here's our controller, and the red and black wire would plug onto this. When you're using this LED cable, always watch where your red and black are, and I'll show you why. So here's our main one out of the controller, which would plug onto here. We notice the black lines up with the black, the red lines up with the red, so that's good. We'd plug that on there like that. And now here's the reason I say this. Let's say if somebody plugged this on wrong before you got it, or you unplugged this here. These two connectors look identical. They're both female. They both got red and black on them. But if you look closely, and you put them, orient them the same way. So the little knob is on top where the locking mechanism goes. So now they're pointed the same way, but you'll notice this one's got the red on the outside, black on the inside. This one's got the same. But so anyway, they're different. As you can see, one's got red and black. This one's got black and red. Definitely a difference. It's reversed the polarity. So this cable not only is splitting the USB power, the 48 volts, it's actually reversing it on one of these connectors, which means this input to this light board controller, you have to make sure you match up. Now you can see here we got our two wires. The red one's on top, the black is on the bottom. If I took this one and plugged it on here, you'll notice, whoop, that's got the black on the top and the red on the bottom. That would be wrong, that would be bad. You'd probably burn up your light board controller. So make sure that this is right. I mean, it comes plugged on there, but I would double check it just to be sure whoever plugged it on did it right. And if you ever disconnect this cable, be absolutely sure that you do it this way. So the red wire goes through to the red wire on this side, black wire goes through the black wire on that side. Not like this, or you're gonna damage your board with it reversed. So I just wanted to point that out. It's best you pay close attention to that. So now if we were going to put this into the scooter, if we were going to use the USB port still, we would plug that onto this extra one, and again, red should line up with red, black should line up with black. Let's go look at that real quick. Okay, so here we are over here. I'm going to plug the main power out of this controller. Again, we plug onto here, and when it's oriented properly, the black should go through to black, red should go through to red. Just make sure that's the way it is, because if it's not, then you got the wrong connector on this end. So you can see black going through the black, red going through the red, going up to our controller, light board controller, red going to red, black going to black, so everything's good there. Then the other end, if you're using your USB port, which is the cable coming down from the top, and you would plug that in there again checking. This time black is on top, and over here you can see black's on top, so we can just plug that in there, and you can see that all matches. Black goes through to black, red goes through to red. So at this point your USB port should be charging, and let's try it real quick. Plug that on there, plug my phone on, and you can see it's working. So the USB port's working, that's all good. At this point, we're going to just, well, one thing, I'm not going to connect my USB port because I don't use it, and I just want to get the extra wire out of the way. So on mine, I'm going to disconnect my USB cable, and I'm just going to route it down in front here to get it out of the way so there's less wires back there, because I don't use that anyway. But it's still there if I ever want to connect it up again. So at this point with the light board, I have one open connector, which would normally go to USB, and you still have to use this cable here with the light board. It looks like I could unplug this and plug it directly on here, but this is the one that does that wire swap between the red and black. So I couldn't plug this directly on here, or I'd get reverse polarity. As you can see, it'd be black to red, red to black, and it'd probably blow up this little light board controller. So at this point, I'm just going to mount, put some Velcro on this, and then I'm going to mount it up onto the back here and route all these wires neater, get them out of the way, so we just have this one sticking up to plug onto the light board. And we'll be back after doing that. Okay, so last thing we got to do here is connect up the alarm, and it's, again, real quick, it's that middle connector. It comes off this pigtail here. There's a display to the branching cable for the lights, headlights, side lights, and horn, and then the alarm plugs on that middle one there. So it's kind of over at the side here because I tucked that wire in, but I will find it right there. Look at which way the pins are, and then just plug my alarm on there. It's a little tight, but it's because I already put the wires back there. Okay, plugged on good. Okay, so now it's just a matter of mounting these things in and plugging the power back on. So I guess first I'm just going to mount this my alarm to the Velcro here, and the control for light board to the Velcro back here, and I'm going to route the wires out of the way, and then we'll come back. Okay, so I've got the alarm module wires tucked down around the front here, just down in front of the controller, and the light board controller that I've got plugged in. I just got the wires routed along the back side there. So most of my wires are just up against this side, and all the cables and everything going through the front there. So out of the way. Before they were just, everything was just stuffed back in here, and it's really messy looking. This looks much cleaner. Just a couple things left to do now. The blue wire is basically your antenna from your alarm module. Again, this is the connector to our charging port on the side, so I'm just going to tuck that down inside here and get it out of the way. And then I'm going to take the blue wire, which is again the antenna for the alarm. I'm just going to run that along the side here. Just kind of lay it on top there. And everything looks pretty good there. One more thing, there was basically just some padding to take up room on the side to keep the battery tight. The battery must be like, glued in there with sticky tape or something too. But I removed this to get the wiring in, so I'm going to put that back in. And the battery's nice and tight in there. Even with that out, it wasn't moving anywhere. So now there's two things left. We got our LED board light connection and basically just our power connection here. So I'm going to do that first. I left my power connector over in this corner, kind of sticking up. And I think I'm just going to leave it there, plug this on here, and then just kind of push the power wires down in front there. Again, when you plug the power back on, there's going to be a spark. The alarm module will sound just briefly. That's all natural. So there's a little bit of a spark. You heard the alarm thing go off. Now again, one thing I want to tell you: once this has been disconnected, or basically anytime you've alarmed the unit and then unalarmed it, or removed power and reapplied it, you're not going to be able to turn off the scooter. It's still going to have the power off. So you have to take the controller at that point, hit that lightning button, I think twice till you hear the beep, which will unlock the power to the scooter. We're going to do that later. So right now I've just got this connected here. I'm just going to run these wires, push these wires down in front, and we'll come back after that. Okay, so now I've got the power wire routed down here. I just kind of brought it down underneath these wires here and then pushed it down in front of the controller. And there's my fuse there, so everything looks really good, looks really nice. neat, much better than it was before, and it might even, you know, help it hopefully make it run a little cooler, having that controller right down on the metal board to sink some of that heat. So basically now at this point, if you have the lighted board, that's the last thing you do is connect up this board, and the board will have this cable already on it. There's some small circuit in there, and so you just plug the output, which says DC 5 volts, from the light board controller onto here, and hopefully it comes on. It does, and so that's that. At this point, you should be good. And of course, you'd put your board back on. Again, if you didn't have this light board, then the plug that's going into the input of the controller that I went over earlier would go directly to your USB. So that's about it. You'd put your board back on now, and you're good to go. This basically, you should be able to replace your controller if you needed to by following this video. At the end of the video, we're going to have some pictures from when I took it apart. I labeled the connectors on a piece of paper so you can see which connector is which. Same thing as what we just basically went through, but just in picture form. So hope you enjoyed this. Like I said, if you got to swap out your controller, do any troubleshooting on this, it's nice to know what each of these connections are. And I could never find anything that described every connector on this and where they went, the wires and such, in this detail. So I decided to, as long as I was doing it, I should film it and do a video on it. Anyway, that's about it for now. We'll catch you guys later. Take care.